Hello everybody and welcome again to Battle for Azeroth, another beautiful day in Zuldazar. And I wanted to show this in a dungeon or an island adventure, but after waiting an hour in the queue to no avail, I'm just having to go back to the good old dungeon training dummy, guys. It sucks, but it is what it is. Queue times are just pure nightmare fuel right now. Anyway, it's the Windwalker Monk. Windwalker Monk. A class that got very popular towards the end of Legion due to the fact that it started doing an absolute shit ton of damage in both single target and cleave. And brings a lot of utility to the team as well with its stuns, its rings, its all that sort of stuff. Things that in BFA you will continue to bring. Now in the Mistweaver video I mentioned a debuff that you can put on enemies, and I will mention it again because it's very, very important. Mystic Touch. Weakens the target, increasing physical damage taken by 5%. This applies to everything you attack. So, I can't express enough how important this is. Everyone that does physical damage just got a 5% damage buff from this, just by having a Windwalker there hitting stuff. Even if it's the LFR where you've got a total retard, as long as they've actually hit something, they're contributing a little bit. Although, LFR, don't go there. It's so bad. Anyway, Windwalkers. So artifacts are always a big thing whenever you're looking at how classes have changed, what they've gained, what they've lost, stuff like that. So the Windwalker, as with every class that had generic damage buffs in their traits, don't worry about anything that gave you a generic damage buff. Numbers will always be balanced by the time BFA launches, and it should all be relatively decent in where everything stands. So don't worry about them things. The things that you do want to worry about were utility things and golden traits and all that kind of stuff. So what's going on with those? Obviously you've lost Strike of the Windlord. Losing that sucks because it was an awesome ability, let's be honest. It was a quite short cooldown, it did a ton of damage in both single target and AoE. It was just a really good talent thing. Anyway, you've lost that. But regarding the golden traits, one of the golden traits allowed you to power up Touch of Death. It's been made baseline. For 8-second duration, 10% of all the damage you deal to the target will be added to the final damage dealt. It's baseline now. One of your golden traits, there, straight up baked into the base kit. Absolutely fantastic. That's the kind of thing that you want to happen to every single trait. Regarding the other traits though, they're somewhat still here. So another thing that I'll talk about that's in the base kit is Blackout Kick. Blackout Kick has got an added functionality. Reduces the cooldown of Rising Sun Kick and Fist of Fury by 1 second when used. So even though Blackout Kick's its damage is okay, it's nothing spectacular, but it's always been kind of a filler spell while you're waiting for the bigger things to come back. But now it's actually it makes the bigger things come back faster. So that's really, really good. Really good. What else is baked into the base kit? So the Mistweaver, it got leg sweep baseline, and you could spec into Ring of Peace to have them both. Windwalker don't care about that. Windwalker don't give a shit. Windwalker just said, spec into Ring of Peace? Nah, I'll just take it baseline. And leg sweep, why not? Get them both. So yeah, Ring of Peace and leg sweep, both baseline. Tons of utility here. Leg sweep, Ring of Peace, good damage, good cooldowns, and obviously that Mystic Touch 5% debuff. It's all looking good for the Windwalker so far. So what else is changing? Baseline, nothing much has changed. I will say that as well, Touch of Karma, it doesn't heal you anymore like the trait used to. Transcendence doesn't heal you like the trait used to. So a couple of things are gone. Talents then. First row, pretty much the same. I'll link the Wowhead talent calculator down below just so that you can have a quick look at things specifically, just in case I've missed anything, but as someone who doesn't play Monk on live, past getting it to a level 110, I'm not seeing anything that stands out here. The next row, however, Healing Elixirs makes a mysterious appearance in place of Chi Torpedo. They've actually swapped locations completely, which is very odd, because Chi Torpedo has a movement speed, this is movement speed and more rolls, everything on this row, but for some reason they decided to swap these two around. Not sure if that's going to be changed, but it is what it is. So I've taken Healing Elixirs. The reason for that is because we don't have a self-heal. Don't panic. Blizzard have said it's a mistake. They intended for Effuse to be here, but Effuse got deleted from the game. So as a byproduct of that, Windwalker never got its own self heal. So they've said, oops, sorry, in a future build we'll give you Vivify instead. So you're getting your self heal back, just not currently on this particular alpha build. We just don't have it. Which is why I've taken healing elixirs, just to fill that void for the time being. Level 45 Ascension now gives you more energy, which was a trait in your artifact tree, so you've got it tied to a talent here. Power Strikes makes target pan hit really friggin' hard every time you get the buff, which is, as you can see on the action bar, it's kind of glowing at the moment, which is why it's that's linked to, Power Strikes. And Energizing Elixir got nerfed because it no longer generates all the chi, just 2 chi. Tornado Kicks. Now this entire row is where all the CC stuff used to be, the Ring of Peace and the leg sweep. So they've just scrapped the entire row and given you new stuff. Unfortunately only one of these things are good, and it is the one I've picked, which is Tornado Kicks. This used to be a golden trait, it's now back in the shape of a talent, and it is 5% weaker than it used to be. 5% weaker. Although, that being said, it still is the strongest in this particular row, which I'll go over now, because this one, Combo Breaker, it's only got an 8% chance to proc, and the effect from this talent just ain't that strong. And then Fist of the White Tiger. This should have been Strike of the Windlord, but it's not. It's actually terrible. It's cheap. It's a cheap, super-powered jab, essentially. It does 1383 damage and generates 3 chi on a 30-second cooldown. Chi generation is something that you are not going to have any problem with, nor is energy. From the testing I've done in this so far, neither of those things are an issue. In past expansions I felt it has been, and I've taken Ascension, but here I've taken Power Strikes and I'm not having any problems. Fist of the White Tiger does less damage in its 30-second cooldown than Tornado Kicks does, because Rising Sun Kick has less than 10-second cooldown and 20% of the actual damage. It just adds up to more. So it's just bad. I've given my feedback saying it should be Strike of the Windlord, and I'm just going to leave it at that because that's all I can really say about it at this point. Okay, so the 75, you've still got Diffuse Magic, and as I said previously, Healing Elixirs used to be here. You've lost Dampen Harm, which is unfortunate. Instead you've got Inner Strength. As long as you can keep attacking and spending chi, this will give you 10% passive damage reduction for 5 seconds. And it'll keep progressing the duration as long as you keep attacking. 10% passive damage reduction is nice, but I feel like having an activatable that does 20 to 50% more, which was Dampen Harm, I think that's just better. It gives you a bit more reaction time, you can plan a bit more defensively for big bursts. For example, if you're doing a high key in Black or Cold, the first boss, when it does its explosion after the spirits, that's a good time to use Dampen Harm, but now what have you got? You've got no defensives, unless you're taking a strength, and then it's only 10%. It's a bit weak. Self-defensives are actually very at the moment. I mean, Touch of Karma kind of is a defensive, but a lot of the time you try and use it for damage. But yeah, losing Dampen Harm kind of sucks. Level 90, you've still got the same talents here. You've still got Zuin. Hit combo's been nerfed. It's now 1% per stack, up to 6 instead of 2%. So it's not as strong. 6% damage buff isn't exactly amazing. And when you are in AoE, obviously you've got Russian Jade Wind. And Russian Jade Wind has changed. It's not a 6-second cooldown anymore. In fact, the 4.96 second cooldown is a bit misleading, because what it is now is basically Fury of Air for Shammies. You turn it on, and then you can turn it off after the cooldown, but until that point it just stays there. It drains 4 energy per second, and the damage it does, well, let's go over to the AoE target dummies and you can see it ticks pretty fast. But yeah, that's your AoE talent right there, Russian Jade Wind. It just turns on and stays on. Whether that's good or not, I don't know, but at the moment I'm quite okay with it. It seems a bit odd, but it's okay. We're going to hit combo for now. Well, in Dragon Punch and Serenity. Now, these two, as far as I can tell, are the same as they are on live. And Wind Strikes is another redesigned golden trait from your artifacts, essentially. On live, it's while you are channeling Fist of Fury, you send out a bunch of spirits that do damage. This version of it, however, only does the spirits on the next 3 target pans after you've finished with your Fist of Fury. It's not exactly stellar damage, really, but I mean it could be reasonable. But when you look at the damage numbers between Whirling Dragon Punch and Wind Strikes, it seems to me that Whirling Dragon Punch is the way to go. Because it doesn't split the damage between nearby enemies, it just does the damage. So that's your Windwalker Monk stuff. Now, I will say that testing this has been a pain in the ass because not having weak auras actually is horrible. I like having weak auras near the centre of the screen, telling me all my little cooldowns that are popping up and refreshing. Having to look all the way down at the bottom and think, okay, is Fist of Fury ready? Is Rising Sun Kick ready? Dragon Punch? All this other stuff. It's so friggin' annoying. But it is what it is. So, if we open up, start punching and kicking stuff. Why did that not proc? That was weird. You can try and use Fist of Fury when you're on lowish energy. It seems to be the most efficient way to do it. And everything else is basically filler. And I've got Chi Wave here as well, so I can take that little bit in there. Forgetting to use my Whirling Dragon Punch. It plays just like it does on live. I'm not going to lie here, because the base rotation is exactly the same. And the way that you incorporate the spells in base rotation with the mastery are also basically the same. I'm just trying to spam them out. But I do like the change to Rising Sun Kick getting off cooldown quicker because of Blackout Kick. I think that's a really nice change. Yeah, there's not really much to say other than it plays just like it does on live. Keep messing with my hit combo here. The global cooldown thing actually... So, if for those of you who are unaware of it, Blizzard have put all your abilities on the global cooldown now. Oh, I hate it so much. I really do. So, if you're trying to line your cooldowns up, Touch of Death, Storm, Earth and Fire, you've got to wait for them. So, the best way to use Touch of Death now is to use Storm, Earth and Fire first, just so you can squeeze more things into that 8-second duration. And when you're adding Zuin into the mix, as well as maybe some other stuff, it feels so bad, the global cooldown. And if those of you who already have Alpha haven't done so already, please go to the forums and post about it, saying how bad it is and that you want it removed, because I've not seen a single person who enjoys this. I've seen videos of people dying, simply because the global cooldown didn't allow them to use the self-heals and shit like that. It's terrible. But Windwalker Monk does feel good despite this. So if you like Windwalker on live, you're gonna like it here as well. Straight up. There's no denying that. It's a good spec. It feels strong. It plays really fluidly. You've got the best mobility in the game by far. Like Demon Hunters, I don't think I mentioned this in the Havoc video, but they got their mastery movement speed nerfed, and nerfed hard. I believe on my Demon Hunter at the moment I've got somewhere in the region of 40% plus mastery, and the movement speed buff is only 7.7%. It's really bad. So together with your Dragon Kick, you know, your Rolls or your Chi Torpedoes, if you take that, you could take Tiger's Lust, you've got Transcendence, you've got the best mobility in the game. It's just straight up, hands down, the best mobility. So if mobility is your jam, you're going to like the Windwalker. But other than that, there's not much to say. It plays like it does on live, and it's got way more utility than it does on live with your stuns, your rings, your mystic touches. It's a really solid spec, and once you actually allow add-ons, so you can get weak auras or tell me whens or whatever it is you prefer, to actually track all your cooldowns, it's going to be a great spec. It really is. The only weakness in it at the moment, I would say, is defences, but it could be that Touch of Karma ends up being good enough. That's my only concern at the moment. But whether they're going to add big hits like the boss I mentioned earlier in Black Record or anything else, it's yet to be seen. But as I've said already, Windwalker is a great spec, lots of utility. Cannot recommend it enough, especially if you enjoy playing it online. So that's my closing thoughts. Go try it out. You will not regret it if you like melee. And having the option to tank and heal, always a good bonus. So thanks for watching. and goodbye.